Hello and welcome to Fanalytics. Today we talk about game week 8 in our weekend wrap up. Obviously, a few matches didn't go through because RIP the Queen, but there were still some interesting matches to go ahead. I think let's start off with the first one, which was Nottingham Forest versus Fulham, a championship match. Both came promoted, and Fulham came back in the second half and won 3-2.
Yeah, it was a weird game. It's the first time that I've watched Fulham and seen them sort of on the front foot this season. A lot of their games that have been sort of quite direct, giving up the possession battle, so to speak. But I think they won the possession battle in this game, and I wanted to pick out Willian, who I think he was making his debut.
Yeah, it's debut.
For Fulham in this one, and obviously his last go round in the Premier League at Arsenal wasn't such a great success. But he looked really sharp in this game, very very creative, and I think it was an area of need for Fulham. I think they were a bit weak in those sort of attacking areas. Guys that can sort of create those chances for Mitrovic outside of Pereira, they didn't really have I think much quality in those areas. So I think it's a great pickup for them, on a free.
Good experience too.
Yeah,
experience.
It didn't work out at Arsenal. That can happen. I think that was perhaps tactical, and he just didn't suit the style of play. That's fine, but great to see him make an instant impact at Fulham.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, it was good to see him come onto the pitch and kind of just make a real effect. Obviously, he got the assist for the, I think it was the second Fulham goal.
Yeah.
But he has that kind of corner that I always love, where it's kind of absolutely whipped in with pace, but also dips slightly, so it goes past the first defender, but goes right into the danger area. And I think kind of we spoke about kind of Pereira having good corner taking abilities, but Willian just really did well with set pieces. And yeah, I think that's kind of one role taking off Pereira and handing straight over to Willian.
Yeah, and you think of that Fulham team, and the strength of that Fulham team is their number 9, right? And having a guy like Willian produce that sort of delivery, which we know he can do, that's going to be a good thing for Fulham.
Yeah, set pieces are quite key this season, it feels. Especially in this match, I think, was it 2 or 3 goals were set pieces, I think?
Yeah,
they were.
And I think the next player was Polina. Again, I think another player that we spoke many times in our weekend wrap-ups. He's impressed again.
Yeah, I think he's a really, really, really good pickup from Fulham. Kind of came out of nowhere. I don't really think anyone really knew about him before coming to Fulham, but obviously he made a really good first impression with his game against Liverpool. And I think, again, he's kind of showed what he can bring to Fulham. I was looking at the stats, and he actually didn't press as hard as kind of his other games. He didn't win as much, but you kind of make up for it by scoring goals. And whenever you have a defensive midfield that's really good at his position and he can always chip in with goals, like that's always a plus.
A great goal as well.
It was absolute rocket. Yeah, he smashed it. Absolutely smashed it. Just loving those goals going to the top corner, and you're like, oh, that's naughty.
I think with DMs, and when you see a DM take a shooting shot from like 40, 30 yards, and you're like, don't do it, don't give up possession, and then he does that.
Especially when it's Thomas Partey.
Oh, Thomas Partey. or Fred. Fred's another one that loves long range shots.
Yeah,
but hard to find Fred as a defensive midfielder, to be honest. True.
I love Paulinho. I think he's been such a good signing. How much did they get him for? It was
around 30.
I think 20 or 30 million.
I mean, he's been a great sign. I just think Fulham have got that you look through their team. There's a lot of players I look through their team and I think, are you Premier League quality? But they've just got 2 or 3 guys: Paulinho, Mitrovic. I think Pereira is a very good player. He's a little bit streaky. You think Willian now, Tete, who you're going to come on to in a bit. They've just got, I think, enough quality there. You perhaps worry if they pick up an injury or two,
especially with Mitrovic. Yeah,
especially Mitrovic. But I've been really impressed with them. You know, I've always called them a bit soft coming up to the Premier League. It's good to see them actually make a decent go of it this go around.
Yeah, agreed. Like I think this year more than others, they came with a plan, and the plan is kind of just to pressure teams, just absolutely work their butts off and pressure when they can. And I feel like the league nowadays, you really need that high press, or at least those one-up mans in midfield where you can really win the ball off and go off on a quick break. And I feel like that is kind of where they've kind of upgraded over the previous seasons. Fulham have been in the league and stayed one season, gone back down, come back up again with like a new manager. But yeah, agreed. I think they've really made some great signings. I really enjoy watching them play as well. They're actually quite fun to watch, which I never really would say about Fulham before, especially with previous managers. I do kind of hope they stay up, because I think that's kind of, you want those teams that kind of are fun to watch in the Premier League. If it's not like,
Yeah, true.
Liverpool or City,
I quite like Marco Silva as well. Yeah, I think he's always a good manager, even when he was at Wolves. And it's a shame how he hasn't. I think he always had that expectation he was going to go to be the next manager, like a bit like Potter and stuff. But he's got his chance again.
Yeah, he's had his moments in the past. Silva, he always seems to sort of show a little something, and then it just falls apart. But it's a really good start.
Mm-hmm. I think one more Fulham player to pick apart is Tete, as Matt mentioned. See, 8 progressive passes, 10 progressive carries, 1 assist, 4 tackle interceptions. I remember watching the Liverpool match and I was like, who's this right back? I've never heard of him, never seen him. He's bombing forward. He's doing some nice crosses. He's already got 3 assists already in 7 games, which is pretty good for just a promoted team coming up. So I've been quite impressed with that right-hand side. And now they got William on that right-hand side. It's been quite dangerous.
Yeah, it's a nice little 1-2 punch on that side. And I think I picked him out after that Liverpool game on the opening day.
Mm-hmm.
So I was impressed with him. And yeah, it's like I was saying, just those few players they've got that just seem have got real quality about them.
Yeah. Let's talk about Nottingham Forest for a bit. Last 5 games, not looking good.
No, and we were quite optimistic about them. Coming in first couple of games, you think of the win against West Ham, even though they got kind of outplayed in that game, or certainly gave up a lot of good chances. But those results are pretty bad, and it's the goals conceded. They're averaging 3 goals against over those 5 games. An interesting stat is that I think Dean Henderson has the 3rd most saves of any goalkeeper in the Premier League this season, and yet his save percentage is way down. He's in the bottom half of the table for save percentage, which tells you a lot about the number of chances that Forest are giving up. And I still don't think they've got it worked out up front.
Yeah, they don't know who they're starting to
No,
Brennan Johnson or this Iorga.
Yeah, and as much as I love Gibbs White and I love Brennan Johnson as well, they both feel like attacking midfielders. They don't feel like they're going to get them the kind of 15 goals a season that a Mitrovic will get for Fulham, or say a Pukki would get for Norwich. When they were in the Premier League, and these clubs who are going to hover around the bottom 3, which I think Forest will. You need that goal scorer. You need a source of goals.
True. I wanted to point one out for Nottingham Forest. Before the season, I thought they were going to play 5 at the back. They're quite decently solid last season, but even with 5 at the back, they seem very open. The game's always end to end. I guess Nico Williams and Lodley are bobbing forward. It's not really 5 at the back anymore, but they normally be more compact, and it's a bit of a worry. That is,
that is a worry, and I think we can't overlook the fact that it's a very, very new team that's come together. Perhaps they do need time, but in the Premier League you don't really get that much time. And I'm a big fan of Steve Cooper, and props to Forest. They are trying to play. They are trying to play some good football, and they do play some really nice football at times. And Nico Williams is definitely a threat to them down that right hand side. I think they just need to get more ruthless going forwards and just tighten up a bit at the back.
Very true. On to our next match, a blockbuster match. Tottenham 6, Leicester City 2, and we'll talk about Son, but this is a hard graphic to make. Let's go with the first player. Who stood out for you, Matt?
Bentancur. Tottenham are a different team when he's on the pitch. I think there's been a couple of games this season where he hasn't started, and Tottenham have looked pretty poor. But he got a goal and an assist in this game. All right, fair enough. They scored 6. There's quite a few players getting their names on the stat sheet that way. But 8 tackles and interceptions as well, and 2 key passes. It's an all-action performance from a central midfielder, which you always love to see. And he's such a nice player to watch as well. He's a cute passer of the ball. He keeps things. Yeah, very press resistant. And like I said, Tottenham are a much better team when he's in the side. I like Højbjerg as well, and but it's the partnership that those two have. I think that it's noticeable when he's not in the team. Højbjerg does get a little bit exposed at times because he's not as press resistant as Bentancur. But yeah, I loved his performance in this one.
Yeah, I love him as a player. When he came from, was it Juventus? Was it? And there was a few eyebrows raised when he came because he didn't really do very well at Juventus or didn't hit the floor running. But yeah, he's really impressed me since he's come into the pitch, and he's even keeping Basuma out the starting 11.
Yeah, which we thought he would stroll into the side, Basuma, to be honest. And I think Bentancur and Kulusevski came as it almost felt like a package deal from Juventus. Conte obviously knew something that not many other people did about those two because, boy, they hit the ground running quickly. I mean, he didn't need any transformation time, Bentancur. He just started running games as soon as Tottenham put him in the centre of the park.
No easy feat in the Premier League.
No.
And from one new arrival to Son, who's been quite struggling this season, but here he is.
Yeah, I think struggling is a bit of an understatement. I don't think he's performed as well as even he would have expected. But I think like the one thing we know about Son is that kind of he always outscores his XG, and he certainly did it this time. You can see he's obviously got like a 30-minute hat trick, which is very impressive, like off an XG of 0.5, only having played like 32 minutes. So I mean, I was looking at the first goal, and the first goal kind of looked like to me like, fuck it, I'm pissed, I'm going to hit this and see where it goes.
He does, yeah.
And it went straight into the box, and he just took it from there. And I think I don't really think Son is a confidence type player. I would say I think he's definitely just he's always such a fantastic finisher that he'll always eventually get goals. But the nature of football is that it's almost a mind game of yourself sometimes, and I think this is just what he needed to get over that hump. I don't think he did much outside of that game other than score the 3 goals, so we can't really speak much about that. But to be honest, when you're playing Leicester team that are leaking goals, why not take your chances? And there's something to be said for that. I especially like because I think on some level we all quite like Son. He's not really like a hateable guy, I would say. So it was good to see him come off his feet. Yeah, how can you hate him? Matt's like, I hate this guy.
I love Son, and you're absolutely spot on about the I'm just gonna hit it and hope kind of thing, like his style, because he's had a few of those this season where he's just kicked out in anger at the ball and not come off. But this just feels like the classic Son game. It feels like he's had about 20 of these games for Tottenham where he doesn't really do anything and yet bags himself a few goals from absolutely nothing, by the way. A couple of goals are just ludicrous. But that's what he gives Tottenham. And I do love watching him. He's such a good technical player. He can go on his right or left. Mm-hmm. On his days, he's absolutely unplayable. And yeah, I think you're right. I think he just needed this sort of game, and it's like, okay, Son's back.
I quite like what Conte did. Like wasn't afraid to put him on the bench. Sort of like lit that fire under him, and you could tell when he came on, he had a point to prove. And yeah, I echo both your thoughts about Son. Him and KDB, like I can never trust XG stats with them because they can score from anywhere, like ridiculous angles, long shots. You know, I've never really trusted XG with them as much because they don't need good quality chances. They just need like a 1/8 chance, and they're banging that in.
Well, some players are just that. Like some players, we just know beat the XG, and that's perfectly fine because it's not a perfect model in whatever formula you use. You've just kind of got to accept that they can finish from whatever because they're both footed, they've got a wicked shot, and they just know how to position their body in such a way that they can shoot from ridiculous angles and get the ball nearer to the net.
We need a Son model.
I think it just speaks to their quality, and it just shows that why even an out of form Son, you said credits Conte for lighting that fire. Perhaps it was still a decision that he sort of kept putting off, right? Because you could have justified doing it in the third or fourth game of the season, to be honest, just because of the way it wasn't quite happening for him, but kept getting those chances, kept going, because with Son, you don't worry about a few games. I don't anyway, because you just feel that this is around the corner, and he'll probably bag about 20 this season, so let's not worry.
From those are two key Spurs player. One player from Leicester City that I want to highlight is Maddison. I think he's had a poor Leicester City season, but Maddison's probably been their bright light so far. He scored already 3 goals, which is like 33% of the goals so far. In this match, he had 14 progressive carries, 5 aggressive passes, and 4 tackles, which is the highest tackles, or joint highest tackles anyway, for Leicester City. So he's definitely not down tools. He's definitely not trying to play his way out of the team. I think he's still trying to give something for Brendan Rodgers, but the team around him are not clicking, I would say.
Yeah, I think he's definitely the heartbeat of that team at the moment, because it does feel like there are a few other players that maybe not down tools. Maybe down tools is a bit strong, but that are just not there. Whether it's confidence, whether it's they don't believe in the system anymore, whether it's any combination of things. Maddison's the one guy that is performing, at just about his best, right? I mean, he's been so good this season, and you highlight the attitude. You do wonder what it is that's keeping him out of that England setup, because by all accounts he seems to be a leader at Leicester, and those guys, you generally want in your squads, right, at international level. So I'm not quite sure. I know England are blessed at that position, so that does play a part.
He's versatile as well. Centre
yeah,
mid, right
and
wing.
Southgate's got his guys in those areas, but I do think Maddison has a lot to give England, and he's, I know he got sort of kicked out of that one squad that he did get called up to one time for, I think he broke curfew or something like that, but
who does that?
It's time for the olive branch, and let's get him into the England setup, because he's a quality player.
Yeah, I think it's a bit tough for players like Maddison, because I think the natural England midfielder nowadays isn't necessarily the winger, unless it's like a winger type player. We don't really have a lot of space for it, because we normally pick a lot of defenders and then quite a few like winger strikers, and I'm not sure Maddison is quite that player.
Yeah,
like he's not like Sterling basically, or Foden or Grealish. Like he's not that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, because he does play on the wing for Leicester, but he's not your archetypal wide player. He's more of a central 10, and to be honest, England prefer an 8. That's why Mason Mount plays that role, because he can play more as an 8 rather than a 10. But I do agree with you on that point, to be fair.
I mean, by all accounts, I think he should play for England. It's just it's a tough one for lots of English players. It's just so competitive now. Like it's just you got to be playing at a really good level. And stars align.
Very true. Let's talk a bit more about Leicester City. Where's it gone wrong?
Well, when you look at this, 1.43 goals a game, they've scored in 6 of their 7 games. 4 times they've scored multiple goals, more than 1 goal in the game. I mean, the majority of the time in the Premier League, you're going to get a fair haul of points from these sort of numbers. So, and to be honest, I'm sick of pointing out all the defensive stats week after week. I mean, I think it's one of the worst starts in Premier League history in terms of goals conceded over the first 7 games. It might be the worst. I'm not 100% on that, so don't quote me on that. But
Quoted.
but they don't even need to be a good kind of side. They just need to be like decent, because they've got goals in that team. And this is without Jamie Vardy really hitting form yet. I don't think we've seen the best of Tielemans this season, which, perhaps his head got turned over the summer and he's sort of settling back in for another year at Leicester. But, there's still a lot more to come, just despite how well they are playing sort of attacking wise. There's a lot more to come in the attack. So they just need to be like half decent defensively. And this run of 5 games, I wanted to point out in particular, Bournemouth away, Wolves away, who are struggling somewhat. Leeds, are playing well, but you feel that you can get at them and score goals against them.
Nottingham Forest too, leaking goals left.
And that's the one. I mean, they have got to get 2 or 3 wins from these 5 games, because I think Brendan Rodgers' days are numbered. Whatever happens, it doesn't feel like there's much of a future for him there. They're heading for a rebuild, right? We know that. I think what they're kind of waiting for, the Leicester board, is, okay, what kind of manager do we need to bring in? Can we bring in this rebuild guy now and sort of, have it be a bit up and down for the rest of the season? Or do we need to bring in a kind of, not Sam Allardyce, but a Sam Allardyce type who's just going to keep us in the division this season, because that is where this season is headed? And I think these 5 games are really going to sort of open their eyes on what kind of a season it's going to be for them. It sounds crazy to talk about them as relegation candidates, but this is a historically bad defense. So,
and this is kind of like a checkpoint as well. Like, they either could get rid of him now and then have these next 5 games, bring someone in to sort of get an easy run of games. But I think they're going to probably keep him till December, right?
Yeah, they unless you have like an outstanding candidate who's parked at the gate, got his bags packed. I mean, it's a tough situation for Leicester. It is, and I do think they're just kind of waiting to see. Okay, is there something to turn this around that says, okay, we're still going to be okay this season, let's start planning for the future? Or is it like, crap, we need something immediate?
I would say those first 2 games out of the 5 are the ones where it's make or break. If we don't see like a defensive improvement, it'll be really hard to try and suggest that Brendan Rodgers will last, because I literally just had a look at the table and they've only got like 1 point.
I think even just settle for okay, look, can we at least score more than the opposition here? If we're going to concede 3, can we at least score 4 in these 2 games? Because you absolutely can against those 2 sides. No disrespect to Forest or Bournemouth.
But like, that's the thing. I'm not sure that they can outscore people, because what are you going to rely on? Maddison scoring 30-yard screamers every week? Like, that's just not sustainable. Like, Tielemans scoring from outside the box again? Like, these goals sometimes just they're great goals, and obviously from great players, but you just can't rely on them to get you through some hard games. And I'm sure they will win at least 1 of the next 2, at least. But I don't know. It's tough to suggest against their results. But I think the one thing I just wanted to also add was they did have quite a hard start to this season.
Yeah, they did.
So I think that all of this needs to be talked in the wider context of like them playing Chelsea, Brentford, Arsenal, Brighton to an extent. Like, those are all like decently hard teams, and I would like to think that in the next 5 we would get more from Brendan Rodgers and the team, because there are some great players in this team. It's just I feel like some of the key members in that defense have left and they haven't replaced them. I think they've only made like 2 signings or 1 signing.
I think one,
Yeah.
that centre back.
One,
Yeah.
the centre back, yeah. So, and that's always going to be a hard sell for any defense. So hopefully they can get it back together. Because to be honest, I don't think they'll take much this season. Some teams don't look very good. And if you've got a team that can at least score the goal, I think that'll get you out of a lot of games, especially against these lower league teams. Lower table teams.
Let's go to the next game, which is Everton West Ham. Everton surprise sneak this win, I guess. And the key man was
Iwobi. he's got a bit of the Joe Linton redemption arc going. Another guy that's just sort of reverted to I think it was like an emergency option in central midfield initially, but when he grabbed an assist in this game, but 11 progressive passes, 11 progressive carries. He is the heartbeat of this team. When they win the ball back, he is crucial in getting them up the pitch. And he was always a frustrating player, Iwobi. As an Arsenal fan, he offered glimpses of the player he could be, but was very, very streaky, very inconsistent. But it's good to see him have this little renaissance, because I do think there's a good player in there for Everton, and he kind of epitomizes what this team has sort of become under Frank Lampard over the past few weeks. They just seem like a gutsy sort of a team that is sort of playing above their level, maybe at the moment. It might sound a bit harsh, but I on paper, I don't think their squad is that brilliant. I think they're just doing the best with what they've got at the moment.
Yep. I think what Lampard, I got to give credit where credit's due. He played a certain kind of football at Derby and Chelsea, and now he's realised with the Everton team he can't play that football, and he's playing the old good being compact counter-attack football. And I really do like that midfield of Iwobi, Gay, and Onana. That's a hard-working, progressive carrying kind of midfield. You got some kind of workhorses in there that kind of shield that kind of weak defense, I would say.
Yeah, Anana's been a great signing. He was their one sort of marquee kind of big money signing, because they can't really make many of those last few years just because of the mess they got themselves into in previous years. And Idrissa gave us a lovely little pickup.
The return
towards the end. The return towards the. I've always liked him as a player. He was great in his first spell at Everton.
Yeah,
they really missed him when he left. So, if you can't replace him, I guess just bring him back.
Hog back. Talking of the other signing, was it last January? I think Milenko. Everton. I always associate Everton with kind of Coleman and Dinny on each side. That's kind of the flying wing backs, kind of crossing in the end. Milenko's a little bit different. 5 tackle interceptions this game, won 3 out of 4 duels against, I think, who was the right winger? BOWEN, I think. And then 14 progressive carries. So he's done well in terms of, he's not the bombing forward left back. He does take set pieces and stuff, but he does he's good defensively. I quite like him about him. He's quite dogged as well.
Yeah, and he looks really tidy on the ball. He looks really composed on the ball, and I don't know what it is about these Ukrainian left back. They seem to have a trademark on these sort of inverted fullbacks, because he's another one. He reminds me a lot of Zinchenko on the ball. Just looks very calm, very composed. He's not too. You're right that he doesn't bomb forward too often, but I think he times his forward runs really well. He gets into those sort of dangerous final third areas at the right times. I think he's been a great signing for them.
Let's quickly talk about Everton as a whole then.
Yeah, and the last few games they've really kind of got it together. 1.4 points per game, 0.6 goals against per game. It's like I said, they're doing their best with what they've got. They've become pretty sturdy defensively, and at the start of the season they had this habit of kind of getting themselves into holes, and then oh crap, this hole's getting pretty big.
Let's go.
Start to dig themselves out of it, but it's too little, too late kind of thing. But they're doing really well. 2 clean sheets on the bounce now, and look, against West Ham and Liverpool, those are 2 very good sides going forward. I know West Ham haven't been amazing so far this season, but they're 2 teams that can score goals.
Dangerous players.
So so they're doing something right, Everton, and I think you're right about Lampard, where he's kind of figured it out. He is malleable with his system. He's not just got in there and said, okay, we're going to play this system, even if the pieces don't really fit that system. It's like, okay, well, how can I make this work? Okay, we're going to defend deep. We're going to not, give it away. Going to make you work for it. And with guys like Gordon, Gray, they've got great counter-attacking potential in that team. And
Mopé as well, who came from a naturally kind of counter-attacking system, like obviously with the loss of Richarlison and DCL being injured for what looks like time immemorial. Like you kind of wonder and obviously Gordon was leading the line for a while, and to be fair, he did get a couple of good goals, and I think there is a good player somewhere in there when he gets a bit more mature.
He's lively. Game. He's lively. He's just not a number 9.
Agreed. So kind of when you're trying to set up your team this way, I think it makes it a lot easier when you have like these kind of quite versatile attacking players that can kind of hit on the counter.
Yeah. I will say the problem with Morpay is he's a number 9 that doesn't score goals. That's always been his big issue, unfortunately.
He does link up play quite well.
Yeah, no, he's a good player. I mean, let's not get that
scorer
wrong.
Of good goals, not a good goal scorer.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely right.
Let's talk about West Ham's new goal scorer. They're meant to be their new savior, kind of changing from Antonio Scamacca.
Yeah, he's not done much goal scoring, unfortunately. He's not really done much of anything in the Premier League. He's been restricted to 1 start, 171 minutes in total. So that's less than 2 full games total minutes. And in that time, he's accrued 2 shots, 1 shot on target. So it's not ideal. It's especially not ideal when you've dropped 40 million on that player. And I did pick him out as my guy that would sort of maybe flop this season, which sounds harsh because I don't want anyone to flop, but it's not quite happening. And David Moyes not starting him is concerning, because Antonio's been awful for the best part of this calendar year. He's just not been scoring goals. He's a nuisance up front. We know that, but West Ham had that goal disallowed against Forest for him being a nuisance and rugby tackling someone completely off the ball. So it is a little bit concerning that Scamacca hasn't found his way into the starting lineup more often. He has played in Europe, and to be fair, he did score an absolute screamer in Europe.
He does that though. I think last season, he was scoring loads of screamers.
Yeah, I saw one in particular from like 35 yards, which was just outrageous. And it just increases my worries about him, because he had one sort of breakout season. It wasn't like he does seem like, you're right, more of a guy that scores great goals rather than a great goal scorer.
Yeah.
And I think West Ham needed him to be a goal scorer. That's why you drop 40 million on a striker ultimately, right?
Yeah, maybe they could try and change their player style, maybe more of a target man. Antonio's kind of like a target man, but obviously aerial, you would think Scamacca would have a little bit more reach, let's say. But yeah, it's slightly worried that he isn't starting, but I do have kind of a hope for him that, I think he was sick for maybe 1 or 2 weeks. So yeah, like some kind of cold or whatever. So maybe he's just kind of getting back into the swing of things.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a difficult transition, and coming from Italian football as well, which is famously a lot slower than the Premier League, and you got the language barrier that we don't, I think, take into consideration quite enough in the Premier League. We sort of take that for granted. But he's got the physical tools. You look at him, he's built like, he looks like what you want your number 9 to look like. So, hopefully he does hit the ground running.
Let's talk about one of their star players last season, BOWEN.
Yeah, he kind of popped off a bit towards the end of the season, didn't he? And obviously he got his England call up early in the year, and we all thought kind of he would hit the ground running this season, and it hasn't quite happened with BOWEN and West Ham. He actually did look pretty decent, I think, in this game. He had a good few shots, definitely the more lively out of all of the attack, but that's not saying much considering how much West Ham managed to create during this game. I can honestly say I know what the issue is. It's largely the same amount of players. It's largely the same formation. They're just not scoring the goals. And I think BOWEN is just kind of not getting the assistance he needs from the rest of the team. I feel like he was always like a highly energetic player that was always running, but kind of a bit like McGinn, I would say. But like he doesn't seem to have that kind of energy and vibe about him this season.
I think it feels like maybe a burnout kind of thing with BOWEN. He played a lot of minutes at the back end of last season at a time when West Ham were doing the
Europa League.
It was a Thursday Sunday thing, week after week, and we forget that at the back end of the last season he carried the team.
Oh yeah,
for a lot of that spell. I think we perhaps overlooked that West Ham had something of a slide, and that actually BOWEN's goals were keeping them afloat. And now that maybe it is a burnout thing, maybe teams are just paying a lot more attention to Jarrod Bowen, trying to stop him getting into those areas. But now that his sort of threat has been nullified somewhat, it feels like West Ham don't really have any answers.
I think it's a bit of a shame because I really like Bowen. And like similar to Maddison, like I think he's quality to be in the England setup, but unlike him, he's kind of in a position where we kind of would like to have him maybe as a backup to Sterling, maybe. But I think the issue is there are actually quite a lot of players in that attacking midfielder role, like Cornet and Benrahma, that could easily take his position. And what we don't want to see is kind of him losing a spot because of like form or whatever. Because as we said, like he did a really good job, and I think he definitely warrants at least a look in. Against some players. And he just works a lot as well. Like you just gotta love that. A player just like works and runs a lot and just kind of does his craft in such an appealing way that you can't help but kind of like watching him.
Yeah, he is a workhorse, and to be fair, that's why as soon as he got into the England squad under Gareth Southgate, he immediately, very quickly got a lot of minutes on the pitch for England. And it is a crowded position. You're right. So there is a danger that he misses out on Qatar due to this slide in form, because he plays exclusively right hand side, and you're fighting with Saka, you're fighting with potentially Phil Foden as well, who can. I mean, Phil Foden can play just about anywhere in the attack, but you got, if Sancho starts hitting form, he's an option on the right hand side, can play left hand side as well.
Sterling too. Does Rashford sneak into the squad if he keeps his kind of form going as well? So you're right, there is a danger he misses out, and he is starting to play better the last few weeks. So maybe it will come. Maybe it will come from. All right, let's talk about our last key match, Newcastle and Bournemouth. Ended 1-1. Billing took the lead, and then Isaac follows straight after.
Yeah, it's just becoming a bit of a theme for Newcastle. I think back to the opening day against Forest, where they dominated proceedings, and they came away with a 2-0 win in that game, but took them a while to sort of break Forest down to get that goal. And in this game, they had 73% possession, 19 shots, 6 on target, and it took a penalty for them to get their goal. That is a reason why they probably made that splash and dropping 70 million on Alexander Isak, who I think is a great signing. I love watching him play, but he sort of drifted in and out so far for Newcastle. It is, his Newcastle career is still young. I'm sure he'll get that going. And I think a bigger issue for Newcastle in this kind of game is Saint-Maximin not being there. Yep. He's so often, the guy that just produces a bit of magic, and at times it just looks a little creatively flat from Newcastle. And if they're serious about, moving up the table and being, one of the big boys, they might still be a couple of years away from that, but you can't be dropping points at home to Bournemouth.
Yeah, they kind of seem not to know what to do against a very deep low block.
Yeah,
and I guess when you become that team, you got these nice good players. You're becoming the team that's gonna go for Europe, a bit like Brighton and stuff. You gotta know what to do in position. I think they're kind of still heavily relying on kind of a few brilliance from Saint-Maximin or Bruno Guimaraes or cross from Trippier. They kind of need to get more clear-cut chances, and then we can kind of see where they're at. But maybe, yeah, like you said, it's ASM. Who else are going to have effect to bring two defenders close to him?
Yeah, they feel like a weird side, Newcastle, because they got like 2 or 3 of these like really, really good players. You think of like Trippier, Isak, Bruno Guimaraes, Alan Saint-Maximin. Unbelievable side, unbelievable players. Could get into most sides in the Premier League, probably, even some of those top 6 sides. And then you got a bunch of guys who, were key parts of the Steve Bruce era, who, just don't really give them a great deal of anything, and basically feel like, once Newcastle can sort of replace these guys, they will be replaced, kind of thing.
Stopgaps.
Yeah, but to be fair, I love their centre backs as well. So they've got most of the sort of positions figured out. Got a good defense, got a great goalkeeper. They've got a great centre midfielder in Bruno Guimaraes. They've got a great striker now. They've got a great winger. So it's almost a complete team. But games like this remind you it's just not quite there yet.
Yep. And I think one player I've loved Newcastle. Obviously, when he first joined, scored those 2 free kicks in 2 games or 2 shots, and then he got injured, unfortunately. And you were just thinking, was the injury going to like derail him a bit? But now he's come back this season, and you can see he won the penalty quite well. 3 shot creations, 10 progressive passes, and 9 passes into the penalty area. So he's the one that's kind of one. So Maximin's not there. He's the one that's going to be finding someone most likely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love Trippier. I love Trippier. It's even before that World Cup run. I used to watch him at Tottenham, and him and Kyle Walker used to split time. And for a while, Tottenham were blessed having 2 absolutely unbelievable right backs. It was great. And then they somehow ended up with nothing at right back. Like within 6 months, they just blew the whole thing up. But he's a really good player, Trippier. He feels like exactly what they needed. It's not just like the fact that he's a great right back, good going forward and defensively. He just feels like he's been around the block. He's been around good teams, and he just knows what it takes. And you just instantly feel settled when he's got the ball or when he's doing something on the pitch.
He's also kind of leadership. Obviously, like he's their captain. And I feel like when you're going through these teams that are rebuilding, right? Like I think one of the key bits that probably teams most overlook is that leadership role. People who've been around the block, and obviously, I think Trippier won the Liga with Atletico. I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah.
So obviously he's got that winning mentality as well, and he's been to a World Cup semi-final. Obviously, he hasn't seen a lot of England play recently, but he's still that kind of player people will look to, and I feel like that, in some respect, is kind of one of the best things you look for when you're kind of in a team that is in transition or looking to build up from kind of a mid-table team and really break into that top six, because it's those fine differences, isn't it, that make the difference, right?
Yeah, and it's England role, is notable because it feels like in between tournaments, Gareth Southgate is trying any number of different things. He's trying to get Trent Alexander-Arnold working for England. He's figuring out how to use Reece James and all these other things. And then once the tournament comes along, Kieran Trippier's in the starting lineup because he knows he can just slot him straight into the lineup and he's going to do a job for you, and he's going to be an 8 out of 10 every game.
Very true.
Yeah, the move to Neto from Travers has been like Jekyll and Hyde for Bournemouth.
Mm-hmm.
Travers was in goal for that 3-game stretch where they conceded 16 goals. His save percentage was way down. I think like 21st out of 22 goalkeepers. I think I mentioned it on one of the shows. But with Neto, in this game, he makes 6 saves, 2.2 post-shot XG faced. So only conceded 1 goal from that. So it's a terrific performance. And he's got a 90.9 save percentage in the Premier League this season, which is pretty ridiculous. And that's only a 3-game sample. So, it's maybe not something that can be sustained over a season, but it's a hell of an improvement. And it's, you think of teams, especially teams that have just been promoted and a team that's going to give up a lot of chances over 90 minutes. They do lack quality. Bournemouth, I think all over the pitch really, but they're going to give up a lot of chances, and if they have a goalkeeper that can keep the score down to 1 or 2, then they have a serious chance to pick up points. And outside of that 3-game stretch this season, keep mentioning it, I think they're averaging 2 points a game outside of that. It's really impressive.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think, any team wants a good spine. You want a good midfield, you want good central defenders, goalkeeper and striker. And especially if you're a promoted team, you want a good striker and a good goalkeeper. I think that can do the world of difference. We've seen it time and time again. These promoted teams can sometimes just about get saved. And Travers, you could see Travers. It's a bit like Danny Ward at Leicester City, where it kind of radiates to a team. And with Neto and goal, you can kind of feel Bournemouth. I think if we replay those games back, they wouldn't have conceded as much. Still, Liverpool were great and City were great. But yeah, I would feel like more in safe hands right now.
Yeah, because that Liverpool one in particular, I think they had something like 18 shots. It wasn't like Liverpool just completely annihilated them and then, completely annihilated their goal. It was like they scored every second shot they had. It was a silly kind of a game like that. But they are a weird team to watch, Bournemouth. They don't really seem to have any sort of a system, not anything that jumps out. They just feel like a team that's just going to really desperately try, just try and hang in there. And they're finding a way to score goals. They found a guy that's going to keep them out at the other ends. I before the season, I had them absolutely nailed, pinned to the bottom of that table. If they stay up, that'll be one of the better jobs done. Whoever that manager is, by the end of the season, it's Gary O'Neill at the moment.
Yeah,
I've completely forgot he existed, to be honest. But fair play to him.
He's definitely a good job.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, Bournemouth don't have really quality across the pitch, but one player I've been kind of semi-impressed with during the season is Zamora. This game got 1 assist, 6 shot creating actions, 6 progressive carries, 5 tackle interceptions. So he was quite key to his match. And whenever I see him play, he's got a nice little chip through balls as well. I don't know if he's going to be a Premier League quality player in the future, but I was looking at FBref. He's quite on a high percentile for like progressive carries and progressive passes, like 80 percentile. And then I saw he's on £400 a week. I was like, what? He's on £400 a week. And that's why I want to highlight him. Yeah, this guy needs to you need to get you paid.
Oh my god! Yeah, get into the office now. That's crazy. And you're right. Every week I look at Bournemouth, his stats kind of do jump out at you.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've got a good player there.
Zamora, if you're listening, use this screenshot and send it to your bosses. You deserve more.
£400 a week, man. I'm paid more than this guy.
Must be some hidden bonuses.
Oh my god.
All right, let's go on to the rest of the matches this week. Let's start off with Aston Villa and Southampton. 1-0 to South Villa. Ramsey scored from a rebound, I think, after Watkins headed it. Bit of a scrappy game. Southampton didn't really offer anything. Pretty easy win, to be fair, for Villa.
Yeah, but this kind of seems like how it is for Villa at the moment. They still aren't a team that's got going, even on a day where Southampton just don't turn up, which, as we've mentioned in the past, is very much on brand for Southampton under Hasenhüttl. They have these days where they just don't turn up, and yet, this is the only way that Villa can really win games if they can just keep the opposition out. If the opposition don't really offer enough, and then they just sort of grab a goal from somewhere. They don't seem to have a reliable source of goals.
No.
A reliable, even creating chances seems to be a massive problem week to week for them.
Surprising with the players they have, right?
Yeah, and Bailey's kind of flashed this season. When I watch him, I'm impressed with him. The stats don't always show it. He looks a good player. Coutinho is still on his summer holiday. I think I haven't seen anything from him. Which, of course, we do know that about Coutinho. That's nothing new. Buendia, just when you start to believe in him, he just disappears for a while. It's very frustrating for Villa. It's points, but the problems are still there.
Yeah, the performance will catch up with them, as always.
Yeah.
Let's go to Wolves and City. City won 3-0 against Wolves. I feel like they always love playing Wolves. Wolves don't give away too much in any of their games, but against City seem to have worked it out always, as they always do.
It just feels like a training drill when City play a side like this. Wolves are a side that tend not to concede too many goals. It's largely due to their brilliant goalkeeper, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I don't think I ever had any doubt that this was going to go this way. I thought this way before kickoff, and about 2 minutes into the game, I felt justified in what I was saying. I mean, the sending off doesn't help, but we've learned nothing about these teams from this game.
No.
I still wonder where Wolves are going to get any. I mean, we talk about Villa struggling to score goals. I mean,
Wolves,
please,
yeah.
they look like the Harlem Globetrotters next to Wolves at times. And Man City, yeah, sterner tests lie ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting you say it was a training game, because 2 of the goals were exactly the same. Foden got it onto the right wing, and he just kind of passed it to De Bruyne, and De Bruyne crossed it in, and they scored. Grealish and I think Foden scored the other one. So yeah, it was very routine for them. Haaland only had shots outside the box, which is weird for him.
Yeah, it's like Haaland watch every week, isn't it? It's like everyone's looking at the number of touches.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of sass in the Champions League game last week. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, against Dortmund.
Where the interviewer said, "Oh, Dortmund certainly know how to keep you quiet," and he's like, "No, I think you'll find I scored." I do love him.
I love his interviews. Yeah,
he seems properly down to earth, very matter of fact in his interviews.
There's actually a video of him walking through Manchester by himself, just strolling along, and fans are like, "You got signed for Man United?" He's like, "Nah."
You know, he's got that aura about him. Like, who the hell would go up to him and sort of, you know,
true.
bother him? You know,
Bloody Viking.
Yeah, he's a great guy to have in the Premier League. It's because we sometimes see these goal machines. We always see these goal machines. Sorry, for like Barcelona and Real Madrid, Bayern. You know, you think of like Lewandowski's, Ronaldo, Messi in their primes, just scored a stupid number of goals, and it was like, oh yeah, well you could never do that in the Premier League, and Haaland's like, actually no, I can't.
He's a super player.
Yeah.
Let's go to Brentford Arsenal. You know, last season reverse fixture, I think they lost, and now Arsenal comfortably won this. I didn't really feel watching the game Brentford really caused too much trouble. I think Arsenal were very much in control, like most of their games. To be fair, is as an Arsenal fan, are you thinking, is it turning a little bit in your head, or are you still waiting?
I'm still like thrilled with just how we're playing at the moment. You're right. From the very first minute, you know, Martinelli almost scored immediately in this game, and it's very rare I watch 90 minutes of an Arsenal game and you know, just don't get stressed at all. And genuinely, I just was not worried at any point in this game. It was a brilliant performance. It was like the Bournemouth game where it was just untroubled.
Yeah.
And like the Crystal Palace game where I just thought, this is the second time now. This is another time where Arsenal just gone to a game, a place where they struggled last season. Just slightly different circumstances. You know, it's an early kickoff. It wasn't the first game with fans back in the stadium, you know, like that game was. Arsenal weren't depleted with COVID and injuries, but, you know, just go in there, play your game, play really well, and just walk away with the 3 points. And, you know, Thomas Partey back in the team, he was brilliant in this game, breaking up play, moving the play forward. Xhaka was brilliant in this game. To have Odegaard missing before the game, and then just, you know, Fabio Vieira is just a seamless replacement for Odegaard.
Great goal as well.
A brilliant goal. And, you know, there's going to be games where we get a little bit frisky and we play Vieira and Odegaard in the centre of that midfield. And that's
very
good luck with that.
That's a bit of you know, when you see De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva, it's got almost the same effect, I would say. 2-8s roaming through.
He does remind me a lot of Bernardo Silva, actually. Yeah. He's got that same sort of style. You know, it's really good for Arsenal, but you know, let's pump the brakes a little bit, because October's going to be the month. You know, they've got Spurs first game back after the international break. I think they've got Liverpool and I believe Chelsea as well. All in, it's supposed to have Man City as well, but thankfully that's been called off. We didn't need all of that.
Yeah, that's true.
In one month.
Match fixing.
But you know, that's gonna be a crucial month. Right now, I'm still at a place where Arsenal are, you know, top 4 contenders.
Yeah,
I'm not willing to go beyond that yet. Maybe if we put together a few performances in October, then I'll be getting really hyped on this podcast.
To be fair, like, in my personal opinion, as a United fan, I think it's you guys like an island of yourself. Like, I don't think there's any teams around you at the moment in terms of performance. And then the only team I would say just a little bit higher is obviously City.
Yeah, so City just feel like the perfect team right now.
Yeah, especially
Arsenal
with Haaland.
Playing really good football, but the Man United game showed that it's not enough to just play well for 90 minutes. You actually have to, you know, win these games. That's something that Arsenal still need to, I think, get better at times. But you're right, with Liverpool's sort of iffy start to the season, Chelsea, you know, having difficulties, shall we say.
Now they got Potter. We don't know how long it's going to take.
Yeah, we don't know what to get it. They don't feel like title contenders anyway.
No.
Top 4, yeah. And even Tottenham, it's been a bit stumbly, although they've accumulated, just 1 point less than Arsenal. So, they're there or thereabouts as well.
It's Conte, right? Yeah.
Yeah. More rumours of him going to Italy. This is Conte rumours every week. It's exhausting. Like, the guy just refuses to commit. I don't know. You always feel that he's just going to take off at any moment.
He's like, I want 5 signings or I'm leaving. Here's 5 signings. I might leave. Please, Conte, one more.
I'm leaving anyway. They've offered me 6.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
But yeah, thank you guys for listening. This is
God,
Game
that's
Week.
all the games, isn't it?
Yeah, that's all the games. That was Game Week 8 wrap up. Like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of the matches, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.